Hello, everyone. Welcome to FMATalk Chronicles. How you doing today, Mr. Tye?
Hey there. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. I had all sorts of issues today with the system. I had a monitor go down. I'm trying some acoustic stuff here, and I don't think I've got the right thing going on here. I'm going to just switch my speaker over here. Hold on one second.
Let's see. We got Rich just showed up. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
There we go. Hopefully that'll change things. Let me see here. So we have
Jeremy.
There's Rich. Yep, as you said, and there is Jeremy. Okay, so man, this is loud. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So, boom, hey, there we go. Nice. And Mr. Spencer, Scott Spencer, Kentucky. Yeah, we know who that is. Okay. So, we have a guest tonight. So I'm really excited about that. I'm working on some issues with my system while I'm talking. So hopefully it sounds okay. We've had some comments on our shows, and first and foremost, we're not trying to insult anybody. We offer a bunch of information. It's our opinion based on the information that we have. And we've invited people who disagree with us, have a different viewpoint, to give them an opportunity to address the community. And they have declined, which is, that's cool. That's cool. Hey there. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to address, before we bring our guest on, even though the show's been PG time myself, I've been singled out, so I will respond accordingly, because that's what I do. So I'm going to share something, because someone made a comment publicly, so I am going to respond to it publicly. So, first of all, okay, if you guys can see this, I'm going to go. This is from Dan Anderson. So I'm going to read it on another monitor. Here it goes. So there has been a recent spate of YouTube commentaries by a senior student of modern Arnis, that's me, regarding the categorization of the art. One of them is basically that modern Arnis is what Remy was doing up until the day he died. 100% agree with that. And that's what I said. That is fine. What it implied, if you weren't with him up until the time he died, you were essentially out of date. I agree with that once again. I don't see how that's what I wasn't saying. Another is the designation. If you trained in this era or that era, you're again implicating that you were being out of date. I agree with that one more time. Okay. So there's another thing here. He goes, a most recent one, whether you are training a derivative of modern Arnis is in actual modern Arnis, my terms, not his. The statement implies that if you began training with someone other than Remy himself, which, by the way, the particular speaker himself, again, with an instructor began with another instructor rather than Remy, you were a derivative form of the art. Okay, so that's what Dan wrote. That is not what I said. And PG Tye was there when we talked about it. So first of all, I feel very comfortable with everything that I said. What you said there at the beginning. Modern Arnis is a living, breathing art that was not finished. Remy died before finishing it. What do you think about that, Tye?
If he had kept on living, it would have kept evolving further. So I think it's pretty obvious that it wasn't done.
Yeah. And if you trained in the 80s and you didn't train in the 90s, you'd be missing material. And you trained in a certain era, just like the Filipinos trained in the 70s. They have a different era of material. Professor left the Philippines, so they come from a different. I mean, Rodel de Guck is a great example of a derivative, and he's up in front about it. He goes, hey, I built it off of what Remy taught me, but I put my own 2 cents in it. And it's not necessarily innovation. It's an evolution that went in a different direction that Professor took the art while he was alive. Everyone we talked about, we said you should train with all these people. I'm pretty sure that's what we said when we talked about this. But now the statement about I never said studying with any student of Remy's instead of Remy himself made you a derivative. Because I gave 3 people besides myself. I talked about, and obviously people like yourself. I left out the members of my organization. I'm talking specifically about leaders. So we talked about Gabrielle Roloff, Kenny Smith, Chuck Goss, and Bruce Chu, all of which were students of Remy. And I was saying that they put them in the category with us as a, modern Arnis, quote unquote, proper or whatever. What I said was certain students were teaching derivatives, and if you studied with them, it may not be modern Arnis proper. So, and he's right. Dan is 100% correct. I started with a gentleman named John Bryant, ran the Filipino Karate Academy. I've said that for years. Did about a year and a half with him. And then after I left the school, Remy recruited me personally. And the next 15 years was with Remy the rest of the time. So it didn't matter. Whatever I learned that 1 year, if it was a derivative, which it wasn't, Remy would have fixed. What are your thoughts on my comment here?
Well, I think, if you move from one teacher to another one in the same style, after some amount of time, you are now that new teacher's person. And particularly if you've only been a short time with one teacher and you move to another one or further up, I think it's pretty obvious that you're at some point already 100% switched over. So say you were in with teacher X for, say, 1 unit of time, and then you go with teacher Y further up the scale for 10 units of time. Whose material do you think you've internalized the most? Probably teacher Y's, right?
There you go. We're contemplating doing we're talking about possibly doing a follow-up to the derivative thing, because I think people took us out of context. But here's the thing with our show, and I'm going to say at the beginning of the show, I'm going to say this at the end of the show, and Ty's going to do the same as well throughout. We are just giving information, our opinion. Everyone needs to listen to what we're saying and then do their own due diligence. There's a bunch of reasons why we're doing this show. And one of the motivations is during COVID, there's been quite a bit of there's 3 groups right now. There's FMA Pulse, FMA Discussion, and the Sticks and Blade podcast, which are doing a great job of getting Filipino martial arts in the public eye. Unfortunately, they do not know enough about the martial arts systems or the people they're interviewing to ask certain questions or to keep things on point. And I think some of the information I think there's some incorrect, there's definitely wrong information out there, which, I remember listening to Brian Z on the FMA Digest or discussion, and they talked about the first camp being in 85 in West Virginia. I thought it was Virginia, but I knew it wasn't 85, it was 83. And I looked and they were right. It was, so I learned something from that as well. It was West Virginia, but it was 1983. It was a one-off camp. And if we're talking about history, it's important to get it right. So there's definitely some miscues here and there. I think some are unintentional, just a lack of information or knowledge. I think some of it is misinformation that is either interpreted wrong or chosen to be interpreted wrong. So we're just another source of data. Everyone needs to listen to what we're saying and then do your own work. I don't think you should take anyone for gospel. And when we talked about it, specifically about the classifications of all the organizations, we said you should look at everybody. There are a lot of people in that groups that are top-notch martial artists that you should, and any of these guys, if any of the people on the list are near you and you haven't seen them, you should see them. You make your own judgment. It doesn't matter whether people think they're good or not. You need to see people, talk to people, and make your own decisions. Some people think I'm great. Some people don't. Some people think Ty's a nice. Actually, everyone thinks Ty's a nice guy. But the first part of this show is we're going to be addressing things of this nature, questions or statements from the last show, the previous shows. Once again, Dan Anderson here misquoted me here, and if it comes back down to his system, his MA80, well, if well, let's be blunt. His system's a derivative. I think we may or may not have categorized that. But if that's what he's talking about, if we're talking about like that modern, if we're talking about MA80 and let's say Brian Zelwinski's Tawa, if it's modern Arnis, then why the rebranding? It's if it's really modern Arnis, it should just be called modern Arnis. Calling it MA80 because it's your evolution and all this other stuff. Saying Tawa, I mean, you don't do modern Arnis anymore. Tawa's what represents me. You can't have it both ways. It's either you're doing the art or you're not doing the art. As we talked about Praesis Arnis in the one episode, real plain, this is the open hand, this is the standalone program that Remy would have wanted. I did modern Arnis as a standalone system where everyone else was doing it, the art within your art. That's a fact. That's not me making shit up. We've talked about it. It'll come up again. But every modern Arnis school that I know of in the States, besides the one I started in, it was in another system. And even my instructor, who I started with, John Bryant, he was doing Aikido. Then he got into Fighting Back Institute, which was Don Zangi, the person who brought it into Buffalo, and he had a Kenpo Arnis program. But he took the stuff out when he got on his own, but still, obviously, he'd have some leftover DNA from this, that, or the other thing. So, let's see. I'm gonna close this down. Boom, 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 boom. I'm done sharing. Stop sharing. Go back into this one right here. And let's see here. Sam says, hey, Datu, what's wrong with PG Tye? Sam, what's up with that? Sam. And then we have, hey, look at these two hotties. Good. Oh,
he must be looking at a different screen.
You know, he's got a different filter on it.
Hey, Jeff.
And then Mr. Owens, how we doing? And Jeremy, the definition, would Praesis be derivative? My thing's in front of that. Okay.
It says, yeah, would it be a derivative even though modern is the base, which I think we sort of talked about on what is Praesis Arnis, but you maybe roll it up real fast.
You know, and then, hey, Craig, listen, I don't look at my program as a derivative because there's also something there. And since you have a guitar there in your thing, this actually is a perfect time to talk about this. Listen, it's not about the moves. How many different bands play the same notes? How many orchestras play the same notes? You know, you can have Bruno Mars, you can have Metallica, you can have Neil Diamond. They all use the same notes, but their styles of music are different. And modern Arnis is like music. It's a vibe. It's a feel. And Praesis Arnis is Remy's vibe done as a standalone program, because that's how Remy taught. Remy taught me a lot more than what he taught the others because he filled in the blanks that was missing for me. He taught me open hand combatives that he didn't teach at other places because other places built it on their karate or their taekwondo and their jiu-jitsu. Boom. Okay. Now I'm speaking his language. So I think and Ty, what do you think? If we're talking about, because I know you're talking to some people about this as well, would you like akin it more to a music where it's more of a feeling than it is about the notes? It's about the interpretation of the music and the style?
I mean, that works for me. For me, I guess the point is that, yes, it's a living art. Yes, Remy evolved it as he was going, and he also wanted to make your own. I think there's room in that discussion to talk about differences and what they mean. And, you know, there's room for preferences as well, right? Mm-hmm. Some differences are going to be not palatable to me. Some differences I might like and you might not. Yeah. And some may feel like, to me, part of what Remy was doing. And for you, from your perspective, you go, oh, wow, that doesn't fit. I think there's room for that discussion because it could be really interesting. And I think, at least what I'm thinking about, is that's sort of where I'm coming from. So we can all figure out what we're doing.
And that's the key. We want to discuss things with people. So once again, we would love for people to be on the show. More and more people. And that being said, and of course, I've guilted Sam, and he's going to kiss your butt, by the way. And then Jeremy understands. Of course he does. He's a smart guy most of the time. Except he's training with PG Craig, so I don't know how smart that is. No.
He just got hit upside the head.
All right. So I'm going to move this banner here because, unfortunately, we're set up for 2 guests, not 3. Actually, no, I don't have to move that at all. I'll keep it right there. So yeah, today we have this is our first official guest. All the way from New Bedford, Massachusetts. The one and only Kenpo Joe. Kenpo Joe, how you doing, sir?
Hey, sir.
Doing good. Can you see me? Because
I can.
all right, good. I'm moving. I'm grooving.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
so I'm going to answer this real quick. Yes, we have invited Dan and Dieter, and both have turned us down. Unless something changed that I didn't know of. So, but we want everybody on the show. We'd love to have Dan, Brian, and all these others. But we have Kenpo Joe, so this is done. The conversation's over. So Joe is known for Parker's Kenpo, or all sites of Kenpo, I should say. Ergo the name Kenpo Joe. But Joe has got a unique story here. And I just found this out the other day, and Rich Parsons says, hello, Joe.
Oh, cool.
So what he has the unique distinction, hopefully I'm getting this right, and I just found this out the other day. Or you know, and with me within the last month or two. That's a day. In martial art time. So that Joe Rebelo produced a modern Arnis black belt without being one himself. Joe, is that true?
True.
Awesome.
2 black belts.
True.
I wish to God I would have known that, because we knew each other back then. And had I known that, I would have went to Professor. I would have petitioned for you to become promoted to black belt, because I was a fixer back then. And I was an ambassador for a lot of people that didn't have a direct pipeline to Professor, and they didn't feel comfortable talking to him about things. Because, you know, a lot of, you know, he wasn't an old school respect guy per se. You know, he always would tell people off the mats, call me Remy, call me Remy, call me Remy. But, you know, coming up in our culture, it's kind of hard to call people Remy when we're used to calling them Master, Grandmaster, and all these other things. But so who are your 2 black belts you produced, my friend?
Sure. The 2 people that I had promoted through Professor were Tim Gillette, who Professor Priestess was grooming to be someone heavily involved in the system, and another gentleman was Mike Antunes,
Nice.
who was a former Marine and correction officer, and both of them went on to become instructors in their own right and produce students and black belts as well.
Nice. Now, and let's make sure we're all on the same page, everybody. We're not talking he produced his own black belts as in his own curriculum. He produced black belts that RPCs, which we like to, I coined the phrase, Remy Prices certified. So these people were graded by Remy, correct?
Yes. Well, actually, one was, and unfortunately, Remy died just before my student Michael was going to test in front of him. So unfortunately, he tested in front of Jeff Delaney and Lisa McManus, and because who was available at that time.
Okay, so
but he got all the way to brown.
But you had okay, so you had 1 black belt that tested specifically for Professor Prices.
Oh yeah, and the other one tested all the way to brown with Remy.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong. I want to make sure this is from a historical point. I really don't care who promoted him after Remy died. I mean, because because we're specifically talking about Remy black belts, not WMA black belts, not IMAF black belts post Remy. But so you produced a Remy Prices certified black belt without being one yourself, and then you promoted a Jeff Delaney black belt without being a black belt as well in modern Arnis.
Well, like I said, I wouldn't call him a Jeff Delaney black belt, even though Jeff did promote him. Like I said, the lion's share of the work was done with Remy. However, of course, as we talked about before, he was unfortunately, no one expected Remy to die, in 2001,
none of these black belts were Remy Prices black belts. They were your black belts, but they're RP. I see. So I've butted heads with people on this, and they just don't. I'm constantly coming up with new definitions, terminology, because some people, they look at my wall and I see they have all my black belts up on the wall, and up to 2000, they all tested in front of Remy. Sure. I've produced 20 of them of different degrees and stuff like that. And they say, well, they're Remy black belts. I go, no, they're my black belts. They're Remy Prices certified. They tested in front of Remy, and Remy did the grading. But the first 20 are all Tim Hartman products with the Remy Prices seal of approval. So that's what I talk about RPC. So only one of your students has the RPC black belt.
Yes.
And and that's and it doesn't matter who certified them. You're the one that produced both those students anyway. So, but exactly. You have the distinction of having a Remy Presses certified black belt without being one yourself. That's unique. When was this done?
When was his promotion done, or when did I start with Remy?
No, when did you do that promotion?
I'd have to pull out the paperwork. I got a copy of the certificate, but I'd have to look. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I would say a good 5 years before Remy passed.
Okay,
at least.
There you go. And
I was going to say I have to look at the paperwork. I didn't know it was going to be 2020 and investigative reporting. My gosh! But
no, I mean, but okay. So, so did Tim get any other certification from Remy, or just his Lacan?
I really have to double check. I want to say he got his Lacan Isa. Okay. So I want to say he got the initial Lacan and then Lacan Isa.
So one of the projects I'm working on is the Global Modern GMAP, the Global Modern East Project, where I'm trying to track down our family tree. And it's all about RPC black belts. So of your students, only Tim would qualify for that. And
I'm not completely sure if I want to say Michael didn't get his black belt before Remy died. I might be mistaken. I have both of their certificates here. They made a point of actively giving me copies of their certificates,
I guess,
as well as their testing sheets.
I would say it's not about when Remy died. It's about when he stopped teaching. Remy stopped teaching in October of 2000. So if the promotion happened after that, unless it was at the Philadelphia camp where Remy did show up at the last minute, then anything after October of 2000 after October of 2000 would have been done by the students and not the professor. And even in the Philadelphia camp, Remy didn't run anything. He just showed up last minute, popped in, and so whatever was going to happen that day. The cool thing is those who did show up were able to test in his presence. But so let's get into this. How did you meet Remy? Let's start with that.
It's actually a great story. In 1985, I started studying with Ed Parker in 1983. And then in 1985, we were at a seminar at Tony Cogliandro's school in Saugus, Massachusetts. And at the time, the Ed Parker double club form, which became Form 7, and then the double knives form was pushed up to Form 8. But it wasn't existing at that time. So I asked Mr. Parker, I said, who would you recommend for stick work and the use of sticks? And without a moment's hesitation, he instantly said Remy Presses. So it's like, okay. So at the time, there was a group in upstate Massachusetts that were running Professor Presses seminars, and that was held by Dave Hoffman. So I contacted Dave Hoffman and made arrangements and went up to Beverly, Mass, and went to go train with Professor. So when I first met Professor, he was like, oh, why are you here? And I said, Ed Parker sent me. He went, Ed Parker is my friend. I demonstrated at the internationals. And he was like, he's a good friend of mine. So I started to train with Professor. Yeah, I do. Yeah. If you had really trained with Remy for any prolonged amount of time, we all have a Professor imitation, Bruce Chutnick does a great one.
I would say we would all have. No. We wouldn't have great ones. We'd all have the same crappy imitations of Remy, but it was still badass to have it.
But it's also the phrases. Like I was never big on the just do it. That's Bram and that's those guys. Just do it. I was never a big just do it guy. I didn't get a lot of that one. But so I started to train with Professor. And what I did is I immediately got all 6 of the videotapes. And for those of you who do not know me, I have a 162 IQ and a photographic. And I was recently told a photo-eidentic memory. It's real funny. And they have a new book out called the Martial Arts Extraordinaire Biography Book, 50 Years of Martial Arts Excellence. Well, the term photo-eidentic is not a common term. It was a person that had done the testing with me and whatnot. And that's the term he used to describe the way my memory works. Well, when I sent that into the book, that word wasn't common. So the spell check put photogenic. So I've got a memory as pretty as a picture. But
So what's your IQ? You said 165?
162. 162, sir. And that was way back when I was in high school.
I guess it's rough to have the one that low, but you can keep it.
Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Mensa isn't throwing stuff at me, so I'm happy. But anyway, the photoidentic aspect became of cross-referencing material. So I got the videotapes from Professor, the original 1985 ones with, of course, Lee Lowry and Jim and Judy Clapp and other individuals who I
my
can't
instructor,
remember.
John Bryant.
Yeah, he's in that. That's true. Yeah. So I didn't just watch them. I memorized them. And I would document them and write everything down and go through things and just internalize them. Just know them like I knew my own name. And so I was working with Professor. And the only thing I wasn't going to, when I first learned about the Filipino martial arts, you see stuff like Dan and Asanto that there are no ranks in the Filipino martial arts. So I kind of took that to heart. So I really wasn't rank happy. I was just material happy. I wanted to learn the material. And but what would happen is that my students would go over everything. And of course, I would confirm it because I could show Professor on video actually performing the material. So they would learn the material as per listed on the videos and also the material that I learned from Professor directly. So when they went to the training camp, they'd go to the first training camp up in Greenfield with Richard Roy and Dave Hoffman and those guys. And back then, Lauren Therian was another person. Robert Quinn was another person who was there. Those were all the people that I knew and worked with and was familiar with. But they would go in there and they went for the first camp and they're like, holy crap, you've got all the way to brown belt. I mean, you've got all the material to brown. Unfortunately, because it's your first camp, the highest we can promote you is high green. But you've literally got just about all the material to black. Who's teaching you? Joe Rebelo. And they knew me because I would go to the seminars with Professor. But they were like, okay, so, Tim would go to the camps and then they would take any new material that I hadn't learned and they would come back and I wouldn't just learn it, I'd record it. So everything they went over, we made a point of actively recording. I'd write it all down and go over it and practice it. So this way I was catching up on all the material that I didn't have previously from the videos. So, as they progressed, I would encourage them. I've studied so many martial arts. I mean, in my lifespan, I've learned over 60 martial arts in my life. Chinese, Okinawan, Japanese, Korean, Filipino, Indonesian, and American martial arts. So I'm constantly learning and would work with other people in other Filipino arts. And one of the other major influences for me was a gentleman by the name of Rene Navarro. And there was one of my Kung Fu sisters from the Wu-Tang group from Northern Praying Mantis Kung Fu and Chen's and Wu's and Yang's Tai Chi Chuan and Baji and Piqua and Mizong. She had met with Rene through the New England Institute of Acupuncture, which he later became part of the faculty of and taught there for many years. I believe he's still active there. But he had studied Arnis Lanada from, again, Maestre Lanada, and he also learned Arnis Abanico Lapunti from Oned Chunabe. So that was my introduction into the Northern styles. So let's learn the complete counteractive technique from Southern styles and moving in close to using the traditional longer stick, and the Northern style and the more traditional Southern long reaching stances and the reverse triangle footwork and drawing the cat in the diagonals. And, that was a reverse triangle footwork. That was whole new. But it was great because it showed the antithesis or the counter to various actions, but also gave you a more well-rounded appreciation of what modern Arnis was and how it worked and how it functioned. And later on, I would work with people in Balintawak and Sarada Eskrima and Kali, but always modern Arnis was the base. You had to learn the modern Arnis curriculum from me. So the one thing I found that wasn't prevalent that I had from Ed Parker was vocabulary and terminology. They could do it.
Yeah, that was definitely missing.
Yeah, they couldn't explain it. But guess what? Ed Parker's terminology is universal. It's not something that's only for American Kenpo. No, it's for all martial arts. And if you understand it that way, and I would use the vocabulary and terminology to be able to do that.
You know, and hey, Nathan, we always want to give a shout out to the people who are chiming in. So thanks for tuning in tonight. You know, here and actually, I've got a Kenpo guy as a student. We're actually doing private today, and we have to understand that the terminology that Mr. Parker used, and I actually adopted a lot of what I'm doing. A lot of things are similar, but it's not the same. We got to understand, and it's the same. Like I know, I was trying to explain to one of my guys. I use everything's an extra plus. That we know that is Kenpo, but it's about the triangular footwork. So one of my guys, oh, it's universal movement. I go, yeah, it is, but it isn't. Yes, you have the universal pattern, and Mr. Parker was the one that defined it and all that other stuff. And you could use that to describe our movement, but we don't use the universal pattern. You're applying something from something else, which is not a bad thing. Just like when we do some of our traps, we'll do a 2 count where you parry with one hand and punch with the other. Like you do the normal slap, grab, hit. Well, you can also do slap and hit. Now, some say, oh, you're doing, I can't even think of it. What are the 2 big chaps? Bong Sao and
Lap Sao.
Yeah, Bong Sao, Lap
Sao.
Sao.
Well, Wing Chun, you've got Bong Sao, Tang Sao, Pak Sao, Lap Sao.
Pak Sao. So you say, oh, look, you're doing Pak Sao, Lap Sao. It's like, no, we're doing this trap. What's the same thing? No, it's not. Bong Sao or Pak Sao, Lap Sao are Chinese martial arts. Now, a lot of systems have similar movements. But it's just, when people start cross-training, a lot of times, oh, this is this. No, that's how you guys define it. So, I mean, when I teach people block, check, counter, if I'm around the Kenpo guys, they just say, hey, you're just doing delayed sword. But block, check, counter is not delayed sword. It's just, you get rid of the kick, block, check, block, kick, chop. Okay, block, grab, chop, block, grab, stick. It's the same thing, but it's not the same thing. So, as long as people understand that we are doing that, other systems have things that are in common, but there's still a slight difference. I used to have a guy that we would Kenpo size everything, and you're breaking the rules of movement. And then you should always do this and this together. Then I explained one movement when he tried to call me on a Balintwalk move. And I'm like, I understand what you're saying, but we do it this way because of this. And that was the last time he asked me a question because I blew his whole comment out of the water. It's like, listen, you can apply rules from other systems to most of the stuff, but when you're dealing with weapons, some of the rules don't apply. They're a different set of rules. Right. And, it is what it is. So, so let me ask you this. So New Bedford, how many people were in that? What was the closest modern Arnis group to your area besides you?
Wow.
I know the Mike
either Rhode Island with Lauren Therian or Boston. And actually, see, way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth and the magma hadn't cooled, the only FMA school in all of Massachusetts was George Brewster with Peter Friedman for the Boston Arnis Club. That was it. There was nobody else. There was no modern Arnis. There wasn't, diddly squat. And if there was, they were very small groups that kept to themselves and didn't commercially advertise.
We will go. That would be a phenomenal topic in the future. But at a minimal detour, we got to keep this on point. Yeah. Where was Brewster? What's his system? I mean, where did he get his training?
I want to say Anis Lanada. I want to say, Peter Friedman would be the one to be able to answer all those questions, from he's out in New Hampshire right now. Matter of fact, you know him from the Martial Arts Symposium.
I know.
You bet.
Right now the FMATalk Martial Chronicles. I mean, this is the extension of the discussion group we used to have. So right now we're doing a series on modern East. We're going to address Kombatan. We're going to address Balintwalk. I'm going to do some Dosi Powers systems that either I do or I have some form of familiarity with the system that I can invite. I said, to get the best out of people, on this information and interviews, you really need to know what you're talking about. And, you know, when I was saying this earlier, there's a lot of people that are asking questions to people that they know nothing about. It's kind of hard to get that intel or what's the right question, you know. And a lot of, okay, we know the basics. Hey, when you start, who taught you? How do you, bullshit. We need to get like what stories you got? What do you got here, there, the other thing? Like, so like Massachusetts, who do you think brought, because this is about Massachusetts modern Arnis just as much as about Joe. Who do you know that brought it into Mass?
I want to say Dave Hoffman. That's the person who immediately comes to mind. When you talk about who brought Remy in, Dave Hoffman comes to mind. You know, it might have been Bob. It might have been Bob Quinn. It might have been Lauren Therian. But from all the information that I know, you know, it looks like Dave Hoffman. So
for those who don't know, Dave Hoffman has passed away a few years back.
What?
We'll talk.
Whoa! Dave died? When did this happen?
A few years ago. We'll talk about that. It's
okay.
So Dave was one of the vice presidents of the organization. He did, you know, he was active, you know. He hit on again, off again, because life took him in different directions. He lived in England for a while doing this, but he's no longer with us. He's one of the Datus. So, and we are going to do a Datu show. I think we'll do like an everything show. We'll definitely do a Datu show. I'm not sure about the order anymore because more information has come up and it's changed, but it doesn't matter. There were 6 of us, and really that's all that matters, you know. But David's been he's been gone for a couple of years now.
Wow,
a few years now. Well, we'll talk about that. It's not something I like talking about.
No, I understand. Well, I wanted to talk about, since you were mentioning about asking the right questions and knowing the right information. You know, one of my big claims to fame is having one of the last video interview ever done with Professor Priestis.
You had a very good interview with Professor.
Well, again, the classic phrase, knowing what to ask.
Yeah.
And by watching that video, and, you know, thankfully with Professor, his responses to me, you can tell we knew each other. It wasn't a matter of, oh, you are this Joe guy. No, we knew each other for years. So I knew what questions to ask and had followed his career for many years. So when we did the interview, matter of fact, as of today, that interview has been quoted in no less than 6 different books as of today.
Well, I will say this. For those who don't know Joe has a huge, he's done martial art interviews for decades.
31 years.
What?
31 years.
31 years. Phenomenal library of interviews. And this, you know, we're getting the show better. This is episode 4, you know, so I want to make sure that we get your information out there. But we're going to start doing more info cards that we can flash on the screen, and, you know, how to reach Joe Rebelo. But we'll talk about that later. But and then make sure you give it to me. What I'll do is, because this is on YouTube. So
sure, I'm watching it now.
Right.
For some reason, my phone has frozen.
Okay.
So I actually had to turn on my TV and watch you guys I watch you and me on YouTube.
Okay. So what'll happen is I'll go in later, and I'll be putting in descriptions below. I'll make sure we have all your contact information. And send me what you want, and I'll make sure it goes. There's actually 2 YouTube channels that I have. So on these videos, they will both have this document. You know, have contact information for more information on Kenpo Joe. So did you go to the camps?
No, it was the one thing I never went to, ironically. You know, people are like, why did you go to the camps? I don't know. Money was tight. I was busy teaching. I was working 2 full-time jobs. So it was very difficult for me to go. But I always told my students, you write down everything. You record everything. I don't care if you got to go out into the stinking hallway and practice it and write it down. You come back and we share, because I give you all this information above and beyond. So come back and, you know, share the wealth. And that's what they would do. And not only would I write it down, I'd record it.
Right.
So we go over the material. We learn the rest of the años. I have años all the way up through 8 documented. We'd go over the toppy drills when they were first introduced.
You know there's 12 forms, right?
You know,
You know there's 12 forms.
No. Yeah, no, I only knew there was 8. I learn a new thing every day.
That was the joke, because there's 12 because you have to count the stick forms.
Oh, the 4 años. Yeah, the 4 stick años. Yep, got those too. Yep.
Although I was in London, Ontario, I picked Remy up from Chuck Goss's, and we were going to do a seminar in Toronto, and I was opening up for him. And some guy was trying to tell all this stuff, and we spent the night in London, Ontario, at this guy Uncle Mike's house. So Janice was there, I was there, the whole London crew was there. We were all going to drive up to Toronto, and Laura Holmes was hosting Remy and I together. So we're talking, and so Remy's talking to the women in the kitchen, talking about, hey, how's your family and all this other stuff, and the guys are in the other room talking about martial arts, because we're stupid, we should be hanging with the ladies, but whatever. So Remy was having a good time, and they're talking, and all of a sudden the guys go, well, there's 12 forms. I'm like, no, there's 8 and 4, and go blah 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 blah, and all of a sudden I go, Remy, what Tim? So and so says there's 12 open hand forms. Bullshit. Okay, guys, you heard it from the man. And I also played a joke because he got out of the car, and it was a old silhouette van, so he goes in, and I had the remote, and every time I kept playing with the remote door. Oh my god! But I like busting people's chops when they talk, especially like you, who knows better. I love. Oh, you forgot the the stick form, so I just thought a little zinger there.
I didn't forget any such thing.
Yeah. So now I'm looking at a map right now. So I'm looking. You are south of Boston, or
yes, I'm at the gateway to Cape Cod. This is how I describe it. Massachusetts, Cape Cod is like somebody curling their bicep. I'm in the armpit.
Nice.
And Fall River is a zit on the armpit. For people
nice.
like
all
that.
right, you just had to go there. All right. So, did you go to? Okay, so Springfield, Massachusetts is where the camps were hosted by.
Not Springfield, but Greenfield.
No, that's right, because that was the women's college. Springfield is where Richard Roy his school was, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Or a suburb of that. And so I've been to his school for a seminar. I've been to the camp. I've been to 2 of the camps he did. Did you ever go to the Connecticut events?
Yes. Yep. That was, I was going to say, that was Bobby Quinn.
Really? Okay. Oh, you know what? Now, Bobby Quinn was a student of Sifu Lee Lowry, right?
Yep.
That's what. Okay. There we go. He passed away. You know that, right?
No, I'm finding out they're all dead now. What the hell?
That was over a decade ago.
Oh, that long ago? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Bob Quinn moved down to Atlanta.
Well, I knew Bob died. But not Lee Lowry.
No. I said Bob Quinn.
Oh yeah, I knew it when Bob passed. Yeah, I knew within 24 hours after Bob died. Yeah.
Dude, you're trying to make me kill people off. I'm not
trying to be the murderer. You're trying to be the murderer.
It's Ty's fault. So,
Ty is the innocent bystander. Leave this man alone. Okay.
I didn't kill anybody.
There you go. Yeah, we've heard that line before.
Exactly what I would say if I killed people.
Yep. Aha.
Okay, so Bob Quinn. Now, did he have a separate place from Lee Lowry's, or was he in Lee Lowry's, or?
No, as far as I knew, he had a separate studio.
Okay.
Yeah, matter of fact, you can find some footage of Bob Quinn at his studio if you look on YouTube. He was very prolific about documenting a lot of his material out on YouTube and social media. Even AOL back in the day, he would post videos on the AOL FMA message board.
Oh my God!
Yeah, it's so sad. AOL just took all that stuff and gone. So sad. You know, volumes of knowledge and information just gone the way of the dodo bird. It's so sad. Tragic.
So I was going to ask, and I know this is more of a standard one, but actually, because you have a lot of stories, I'm wondering if there's a particular story we haven't asked about that you'd love to share, especially, you know, having talked to Remy along the lines of somebody who's just hungry for the material.
You bet. And I've talked to Tim about this story. And, you know, again, we're so familiar with Professor doing just stick art and stick and blade, sword and dagger. So I'm at one of the seminars, and I happen to bring a pair of sai.
Yep. Iron rulers.
And I talk to Professor, and I say, Professor, so I've heard that in your training with your brother that you had learned Okinawan weaponry, and you have a black belt in Kobudo. And he goes, yes, that's true. I said, you ever do work with the sai? And he goes, oh, certainly. And he proceeds to go over Anyo Isa, Delawa, and Tatlo. He does them contracted, he does them extended, and then does them alternating. And I think this is the coolest thing since sliced bread. So I go back immediately after and I write this sucker down. So when I was working with Mike Antunes and he wanted to compete in tournaments, I taught him the forms that I had learned from Professor. And it was funny because at the time, Mike had this white uniform and he had gold, like the gold Greek column, you know, 3/4 square trim all the way down. So Professor sees this outfit. And he goes, my God, Michael, I know what to call you. We will call you the genie. You look like a genie. Because Michael was a big, burly correction officer who basically, you know, he looked like one of those big husky bodyguards you would see in the eunuch that were in the castle and whatnot. Looked just like it. And, you know, but he actually competed with those forms and won and placed in tournaments with them. But I didn't want to lose it. It was something, how often you ever saw a professor not use the conventional double stick work or spedi dagger? You didn't. You know?
I think he was always looking at that stuff. He was always looking at that stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
since we did Kung Fu, he actually had us do the stick forms with staff, the way we do it as a staff person. He said, hey, keep doing that after we showed it to him. So he was hungry even while he, you know, forever and ever, basically.
Oh, he never.
Well, a perfect example of that is Pacific Connection. If you watch the film Pacific Connection, there's a young boy doing double nunchaku work that he learned from Remy. So the tabak toyok used to be in the system. But, you know, he was like, you know, there's so much. So he just focused upon what he liked. And again, it was the popularity of the Bruce Lee era and Bruce Lee during the 70s. But they did the tabak toyok work. And that was another thing that he had gone over at one point. But simply stated, you had to ask him.
Yes.
And if you didn't ask him.
Yep.
Actually, you had to watch him because you never knew. I remember the one time we were in Buffalo and Remy's using Mizunuke, and I was talking to Jeff Leader, which is Dr. Leader's my first black belt I produced, and Remy does a trap, and he hits me with 3 kicks. Well, I don't see it because I'm being kicked, but he's like, Tim, you don't understand. He did like sport karate side kicks. He hit you in the knee, he hit you in the rib, and he shoved it in your armpit, and it looked like a world-class kata practitioner.
Yep.
And like, you know, like, damn. And now I know he did karate, but he also was the one that gave me my first lesson on Sikaran.
Right.
And when I did when I officially got into a Sikaran school, everything he taught me was the first thing they taught me when I got in there. So, I mean, he had so much versatility. I just, you know, I think there's things he did for personal growth. And then other things is like, what do I want my system to be? And that evolved. That always changed. Well, what may have been here today may not have been tomorrow, but you know, but that doesn't mean just because he didn't do something it was gone per se. But I got to see the evolution of like the number 5 defense. It was block check counter with a puño strike. Then it was blackjack counter with a forearm strike, and then it became the belly strip where he did it subtly, so you didn't have to have size, so people of all sizes could do it. You know, I mean, I got, you know, so there's, you know, it's accessible by all, men, women, children, you know, big people, small people, and everything in between. And I felt very fortunate to see some of that evolution. And, you know, I mean, how often were you seeing him at the time? Like yearly?
Whenever he came, every year, sometimes 2-3 times a year. If we was running more than one seminar, I tried to make more than one. There'd be Beverly, there'd be Greenfield. And if my car wasn't available, I tried to catch a ride from somebody. Rhode Island, he did seminars in Rhode Island. People unaware, you can ask Lauren Therian about that. Matter of fact, I was watching YouTube one day, and I'm watching a Wally J seminar that I had on video. And lo and behold, who do my wondering eyes do appear? A young Lauren Therian working with Tim Hartman. So I call him up. I go, "Hey Tim, you know you're on video working with Wally J." It's like, what? Yeah, it's a camp, and you're on it. It's like, you're kidding me, and you didn't even know it existed, right?
Yeah, so and if you get a chance, if that's on YouTube and you know where that is, please send that to me, because you know, the problem with all this stuff is I'm always doing stuff. I don't have pictures of me. I don't have video footage of me. Everyone else does.
Right.
I assisted Dr. G when he came into town, and I've
always wanted to meet him.
Bumped into people, and there's a school around the corner that we taught at, and I'm like, "Hey, is this you, Tim?" I'm like, "What? Oh my God, oh my God, this is great!" And I got to see stuff. I'm like, usually I set up my camera in my school, but I never get to see stuff when I'm out and about, you know.
Right.
And hello, Mr. Bob Guida. Bob Guida is another guy that would have said hello if you would have said hello when you're in Buffalo. He's the Kenpo student of mine that Ben didn't invite either one of us to that promotion. Ben, if you hear this, I
felt kind of weird. I was like, I know they brought me in as a guest to be on the board for that. And that was really the first time I got to see, well, no, the second time, because I was there for Robert Cook's promotion and then Ben's. So it was the first time I really got to really see what they do and their orientation. It was very interesting. 2 times in
Buffalo, and you didn't visit me, bastard.
Well, 3rd time's a charm, because I'm going to your camp either in August or October. So I'm going to go to the camp. Matter of fact, I'm bringing Tim Gillette with me, so we're going to be there.
Oh, the Kenpo thing. I think that's a scratch. New York is still dealing.
No, your Arnis camp. Are you serious?
No, the Arnis camp is going to be August. Stop. Arnis camp is the last weekend of August, and the 65th anniversary is in May of next year.
Okay.
I don't have anything scheduled in October.
Thought you did at one point.
I have seminars. Okay. We were supposed to do that big Kenpo thing, but I with a tournament, and I'm in New York, so I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
all right. So now you push my schedule. Now I got to go running around. I guess I'll have to sell more Remy Priestess interview DVDs. Here we go.
There you go. Sell more though. Well, I mean, like I said, I'll be there in August. I mean, come out in August. I mean, here's the good thing. August is still happening. The only downside is the hotel that we're using is booked full, and people waited too long. So here's a lesson to everybody. There's plenty of hotels in their area. It's not booked with us. It's booked because it's the summer.
Yep.
There's plenty of hotels, but you might have to drive 20 minutes. That's all. But, you know, people wanted to get the good rate. And I know someone to call. She just called me the other day and go, they're charging me $250 a night. It was supposed to be $110.
Whoa!
Well, you know what? Find a hotel at the end of the summer. You know, and they're all, you know, right now, the problem is the person booked through booking.com. They didn't call the hotel. And hotels have these contractual agreements with all these third-party companies, and they can't undo the deal. You know, so This is the problem. People, I mean, you know, like I said, you got to, when I see an event, like I'm going to the Gathering, I got to book it this week. The Gathering is Bruce Jutnick's event, so I'll be out there in October teaching. But I gotta get my hotel booked now because it's going to be October. You know.
Okay, so let me ask a question. Well, I'll talk to you later about it, and you know. I've got connections in New York where there's a place I can stay at least, so I could always stay somewhere and just go to the event. So I'm good.
I'm going to throw this out there. Are you talking about Brian Zawolinsky's event in October?
I have no clue.
He's doing an event in Connecticut. I'm not.
Okay.
So
I have to check.
If that was what you're talking about,
I have to check.
Yeah. So that's what's going on.
I have an interesting Brian Zielinski story, which we will not discuss.
We can discussed it once before, but that's okay.
Yep. So
let's not go down that path. So
I'm a nice guy.
So Ty, okay. So I just closed. Oh no, my school closed for the evening. I gotta make sure I say that right. I just gotta lock up. Ty, by all means, you guys can both talk about me while I'm gone. I just got to make sure that it's locked up so no one comes wandering in and just disrupting the interview, which is great when we have a co-host. When it's the two of us, the TNT time. There we go.
TNT time.
There you go. So actually, so Joe, one, good to have you on here. And it's good to see you again. I can't wait. One of these days we'll see each other again in real life. That'll be good. And
hi Ty, how's my guy? Good to see you.
There you go. Plus we can nerd out because I think we're both co-brothers in martial arts geekdom and nerddom and all of that stuff. All that stuff. But one of the things that's also neat is, so martial arts is a lot of what we do, a lot of what anything people do, right? People are social creatures. Sometimes it's about the people, right? And you, because you're exposed to so much, I'm wondering, who all you remember from back then that are still around. No, wow, you tilted. Uh-oh. Are you frozen?
Did I lose you? Please don't tell me I lost
you.
you.
You are. Okay.
Okay, I'm back. Can you see me?
Okay. Yep.
Sorry about that. I'm on my phone and somebody called me. I'll talk to them later. I have no idea.
See.
Okay, so anyway.
No worries. Yeah, no, so you mentioned some names back then, and some are still around and some are still active, some aren't. I thought I'd throw a name out there, and I'm just curious myself because that's my first teacher, and I think you might know who this is. But I'm wondering, do you remember back then a guy named Eric Alexander?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really.
Yeah. So he was sort of
maybe by face, but not by name.
Okay. Just curious.
What was he teaching?
He's for me, he's my first Arnis teacher. The reason I brought that up is I just got in touch with him. Yesterday? What day is today? Yeah, yesterday. I had a great conversation with him, catching up over years and stuff like that. But for those of us who don't, so I never met Bob Quinn. I never met Hoffman. A few people like that. Since to carry memories along for all these people that love Professor's art, do you have any stories you might share from them, or with them, or about them, or things you might remember funny, or anybody else like that who people may not have met?
Well, like I said, Dave Hoffman was instrumental. He was the man who used to bring Professor in originally. Before Richard Roy and whatnot, he was the guy, the go-to guy in Beverly. So I'd go to his seminars, and and they were kind of surprised. They were like going, what's this? And it wasn't that there wasn't a lot of Kenpo guys, but mainly they were either from Nick Serio's orientation or Fred Villari's. And to see a Parker person in there was kind of an interesting twist. And especially being endorsed by Mr. Parker to go train with Remy.
Sure.
So I remember the first time I ever met Remy, I had this like bright red gi top with a black racing stripe on the side and with the Kenpo crest and all the bells and whistles. I am Emblem Man. You are Patch Boy. One day you too will be Emblem Man. I've got my walking shrine to Mr. Parker these days and whatnot, and other instructors as well in different uniforms. But working with Bob and having fun with him, and working with Dave Hoffman and learning, and the classic phrase, the smell of the burning sticks when we did the Sinawalis till your hair caught on fire. But and really looking at, and also looking at different things I learned from other instructors, and then go back and work with Professor and ask, okay, where's this? Sure. I wouldn't be so bold to say that, but we do the drill, and it was well, since you know that, and then he'd go off. So, like the forward and reverse, and then feeding that puño, one of the sad things, I didn't get to have Professor demonstrate on me as much as I would have liked. Like Mr. Parker, he beat the daylights out of me all the time, Right. So many of my instructors, to feel is to believe, as we say. Absolutely. So,
Hey, Joe, do you know Mark Champagne?
Oh, very well. I've known Mark since he started training with.
You're saying hello.
Mike Griffin. Oh, cool. Yeah, Mark's on the executive board for the American Kenpo International with Tony Cogliandro.
Jeremy thought we were about to do some smack talk, probably because
that's because you stepped out. So
no, I just and then I'm getting dizzy. I don't know why, Rob. Are you drinking again, Rob? Is that what?
No, Joe had to adjust his phone. It was twisting it around.
Oh, okay. I missed that. So
yep.
I got a couple of phone calls in the middle of this. Sorry about that.
Did I miss anything major?
Not really.
All right.
No, just talking about some of the guys from New England.
Okay.
So one other question, Joe. While Tim gets his bearings here again, and he's probably ready, but that's okay. I'm going to step all over him.
Bastard.
So one other thing. So since you have studied a lot of arts, I'm wondering if there's something you'd like to say about, something you find the most unique or the most interesting, or what somebody who has studied other arts might feel, what they could really benefit from Modernese. Because I think you love Modernese. We love Modernese, obviously. And so I'm wondering, if you could say from your perspective, what really touched you?
Well, I mean, first of all, eventually, did I deviate on my own path? Yeah, we have a system called AFEX, American Filipino Arnis Eskrima Kali Training System, because I wanted to diversify. But you can't get there without modern Arnis. You need that as your foundation and have it comprehensively so you can expand. One can, I always quote the Tao Te Ching. One can only see beauty as beauty only because there's ugliness. High and low rest upon one another. Long and short contrast one another. That's why I enjoyed doing the Northern styles and teaching my students that, so they can see the difference. So they can see when something's, suddenly I'm Monty Python of the martial arts, and now for something completely different.
There you go.
I want people to appreciate, and because of that, like we talked about Balinta Walk, I had the honor, the privilege, and the pleasure of working with Grand Maestro Antillo. And that was through the World Combat Arts Federation. And Grandmaster Crimi had brought him in, and Lorne Therian had him there as a special guest. So I got to work and see how the foundation of Balinta Walk was so important to modern Arnis.
Which GM? Which GM?
Antillo. Antillo.
Attillo?
I'm Spanish, so I use the double L like a Y sound.
Oh, okay. So, all right, yeah.
Like they do in Spanish.
Okay, by the way, Paul Lavallee says, glad that you're healthy and recovered, Joe.
Absolutely.
I'm not recovered yet. It's only been 2 months. I had a major hernia.
Robert Guido said, he's a lying bastard. Robert Guido says, Kenpo rules. What bullpucky.
So you just talked about one thing, Joe, is, and Tim said the word earlier too, accessible, right? One of the things that Remy was really, and it came out, I think, in both of what you guys said, his material, he was driving to make it accessible for everybody.
Always willing to share. And one of the most important things is he put it in the school system. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't have an established curriculum, if you didn't have a proper format that you could show educators, they weren't interested. Yep. People are under the misguided impression that Remy was the first person. He wasn't the first person to offer it into schools, but he was the first person to be accepted offering it in the schools because he had a viable, organized, recognized curriculum that could be taught to teenagers. And the key ingredient that he did in his presentation was to be our national sport. Mm-hmm. And that was the big thing with the Filipinos. That's something that was uniquely right. Yep. I've met people over the years. I've met people doing IT support in the Philippines with like Samsung and whatnot, and mentioning and saying that when they were a kid, they trained with this guy, and it wasn't Remy. They were trained with Remy, and but back then it wasn't as important to them. But it also gave them, and here's an important feature. By learning a national art, he gave them a new sense of national pride.
Yep.
They had something that was distinctly theirs that they could be proud of. That was theirs. And that was one of the main focuses of it.
This is what I like about the show. I mean, okay, it's FMATalk's Martial Chronicles, Modern Arnis. And we're not just talking about, with each person we bring on, we're going to have different things they bring up. And you just brought up some stuff that, that more people need to talk about the whole thing. I mean, think about this. Other systems were doing it, or were doing things, but it ended up being modern Arnis that really ended up probably saving Filipino martial arts back in the islands, because No one wanted to do it because it wasn't safe, because they did stick on bone training. Remy modified things. He saw what karate did. He did things. And now he came up with a program, which you said was accessible and viable enough to be taught in school systems, meaning safe enough. And now look at children. I mean, the problem, I mean, the only thing I'm disappointed with in the Philippines is that it's in the school systems as a sport, not as an art. Everyone's, you know, I've talked to some of the teams over there, and they said, oh, you know, I wanted to come and visit them, and like, you know, don't waste your time. I mean, we could show you. I mean, we do Sayaos, and we do competition forms, and we do competition fighting. You could teach us more about the art than we could show you. And it's sad to that aspect. But you know what? The other thing, I've always thought that tournaments are important for any sport, because that's how people get involved. And we're not a tournament school, but we do tournaments. You know, and here's the thing: is I do it on Modern Arnis. I go in the open karate world. I've had regional, national, and world champion titles run through my school based on Modern Arnis. And I don't know anyone who's done that in the open karate field, in the open martial art field. It's been, you know, like, okay, so we know people, Modern Arnis has a few weak half world champions. But how many karate champions does it have? How many point karate champions does it have? How many kata champions does it have? And I've pulled, we've had a whole bunch of them coming through our stuff. So Datu, so Chris Davison says, Datu, PG Tye, Kenpo Joe. Was he at Ben Aldridge's promotion? Was Chris Davison there? Because Chris also gives me this a little.
Yes, actually he was. Man. Yeah, actually representing.
Now I'm pissed. Now I'm pissed.
I didn't invite him.
Where the hell was my invitation?
Oh my God.
Chris, did you? I was, you bastard. Did you get invited, or did you just crash? Actually, I gave. Okay, so if you watch Chris Davison's post, you'll see he's doing a lot of bottle cutting. That's because of me. Because in our tournament league that we started, he is the uber fan of all martial arts, supports everybody. I gave him one of my Talibans as a gift. Okay. Because I kind of invited myself. Yeah, and you do that all the time, but that's okay. Well, but now
Chris, I gotta say, you know, Chris spoke very highly and nicely about you.
I think it's out of fear. I'll have Craig Mason bloody his nose again, because you know Chris kicks people in the groin. Go figure, a Kenpo, or no, he's not a Kenpo guy. He's a Wana Kenpo guy. And of course he always gets bloodied. Craig will bloody his nose, and then Chris will kick him in the groin. But here I'm going to share a photo from Chris's Facebook, and if Greenpeace gets upset about all this waste, it's my fault. It's not his. Because I gave him a sword, and now I think we're regretting that. So I got to click on this. Boom.
Wow. I saw that picture. I remember that picture.
Yeah. It was yesterday.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So
I got to see him go through the laundry bottles, the Tide bottles. I've seen most people just use like either water bottles or like juice bottles, like the gallon ones.
What do you think of this layout there, Ty?
Well, it makes Joe looks really good in it, so yeah, it's better.
Can you actually make Joe?
Hey, that does look a lot better. Yeah, I like that.
See, you're the first guest. We haven't done more than, it's always just been two of us here. So,
I'm the acid test, right?
Oh, so here we go. Yeah, you're on acid, all right. He goes, hey now.
Hey, I am not a Timothy Leary clone. Thank you very much.
And then Craig has an excellent Sanchin, no groin kick.
There you go.
Okay. Yet another out of one. Yep.
Okay, so I really like this look. Ty, what do you think?
For more than two of us.
Oh my God, this is great. This is great.
Yeah, this is
particularly
awesome.
we get to see all of Joe's cool stuff.
So if anyone's interested in doing these things, you know, just so you know, we're using StreamYard. It is not one of our sponsors, but part of one of the shows I do is FMA Professionals, about, you know, doing martial arts professionally. I think the only full-time modernist school in the nation. 5,000 square foot facility. It can be done as a viable force, or a viable entity, but you got to get educated. You know, that's what I get. I'm a martial art business white belt, and I've worked my way up the belt rank. But if you ever think about doing any of this stuff, and you too there, Joe, this is called StreamYard. There's a free option. I do the premium one to get the HD, but this, I like this look a lot. I really like this look.
I'm educated the StreamYard through Frank Soto and Coffee and Martial Arts, which I've been featured on no less than 3 episodes.
My man,
check it out if you haven't seen it.
I love Frank. I can't wait till the border opens up. It'll be good to hang out with Frank. Let me see here. What do we got? Excellent. Yeah, no. But what was after that? I know you can only push me away because you cared. Yeah, that it's my name is not Datu Hartman. It's Datu Heartless. I don't know what happened. There was a mistypo, and but whatever. Okay, so
you heartless.
Yeah, exactly. So, so what we got out of this is we're all a bunch of freaks. We like Remy. We had good stories.
Wait, we're not done with the most important story.
Oh yeah,
we touched upon it, but we really didn't talk about it.
But hold on. I'm just recapping before we have the piece de resistance. And by the way, sorry to leave early again, but that was Jason Farnsworth, who is also a student of Huck Polanis and attends my workshop.
Who I owe money to.
Okay.
Jason on the public forum. I'm just like, I will take care of it. It's been many months.
That way you shouldn't be. You guys got to stop friggin' gambling in Atlantic City. Listen, Jason.
No, it's nothing like that. I have no problem. I know it takes 30 seconds. I was supposed to go to an event. I couldn't make it. He had gotten a hotel room. He ended up paying for the whole thing with himself. So I still owe him cash, and I want to make it good. So Jason, now it's on the internet. So now I have to do it.
I'm going to be down in Ohio next month. Most likely teaching a seminar. I'm going to be doing some sword fighting and then teaching a seminar on a Sunday, most likely. I just got to work it out with PG Wolf. And I was just kidding about eating your carp. He's eating my carp. Oh, that's not carp. It's a koi pond, you bastard. I don't have carp in my backyard. It's koi. So anyways, we talked about, well, I said, I'm going to set up the last story. I'm going to set up the favorite story. So we talked about you produced a black belt in modern Arnis under Remy Pracis without being one. You got involved with modern Arnis through David Hoffman, and you feel that he was the one that brought it to Massachusetts. And you told some stories behind my back when I had to lock the place down, and you probably talked smack behind me, but that's okay. Chris, koi and carp are not the same. Get educated. Oh my God. And we talked about modern Arnis instilling national pride, and he had, you can say what you want, but he had a program, which is different that he trained here. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
There we go.
Oh my God. Eric, when are you going to be on the show with us, brother?
There you go.
When are you going to be on the show with us? Eric Alexander. Yeah, Joe. He went from he was in what part of Connecticut was he? I don't even remember. He went to Connecticut, and then he went over to Colorado.
Yep.
And boom, and it's not the same. Get it straight, Chris.
Really? Hey, Eric. So I'm going to cut in on this. I'm in Colorado just about every year these days with Robert Austin's International Black Belt Academies and the International Kenpo Karate Jiu-Jitsu Association. And I'm going to be there in October in Fort Collins and in Greeley. Matter of fact, they just brought in Apollo Lada there recently for a seminar. But yeah, I'd love to meet you. So, it's going to be in October, and get in touch with me, please. And Ty, send me a picture of him, because I'm sure I see the face, I'll know. I mean, there were certain people that they were always there, but I may not have remembered them.
Yep.
Even with the photographic memory, sometimes it gets overexposed.
There you go.
Okay, and then Chris once again is giving me lessons on what koi are. So, anyways, dude, you're in with Bob Austin. You put they want FMA guys, and you didn't put my name in, dude. And I know Bob.
Talk to Craig Bailey. Talk to Chad Bailey. Chad's been helping him out, and he's been one of the main guys. And
Chris, I'm going to take my sword back. Okay. All right. So, give us your best story. Give us your best story.
We got to talk about the story, and what really has made me known in the FMA community, especially modern Arnis. And people are calling again, and my girlfriend doesn't realize I'm on a podcast. Anyway, so I was at an event that was being put on by Evan Pentazzi. And it was a combination event that featured Professor Wally J., George Dillman, and Remy Priestless. And unfortunately, Wally J. took ill, so Leon J. took over. And I had my TV show, Martial Arts Today Television. I started in 1991 with the program. Actually, this year makes 30 years. So actually 30 years. I should have said 31 years earlier. I stand corrected. But anyway, so I talked to Professor, and I said, I'd love to do an interview with you. Well, of course, he knew me. And I always try to do an extensive interview. I go back through my magazines, and I pull out different articles and put everything together so I can make it somewhat comprehensive. And the biggest thing that's coolest with me is when a person says, how do you know that? Why do you know that? So we started the interview, and it was only going to be like a 10 or 15-minute interview. Well, Professor loves to talk, and I had the right questions to ask. And before you knew it, it was an hour.
Oh, and
it was a full-blown hour.
You don't like talking
and
at
we
all.
were talking.
You don't.
Yeah, I know. I'm such a
all on Remy. You're putting it all on Remy's shoulders. That you don't like to talk. It's all Remy.
I love to talk. I love to talk. And especially when you got the right questions, you get interesting answers. And we talked about, everything from his dealing with the Marcos area, his early fighting career with Balintawak, and Nickel Stick as well to a small extent. And then talking about the famous attack on the subways in New York and Dean Stockwell working with him which again made the cover of Fighting Stars. That was the first time I had ever heard about Modern Arnis, that in a very early issue of Inside Kung Fu magazine.
Question for you, Mr. Walking Encyclopedia.
Sure.
Dean Stockwell.
Yep.
Did he start in any other martial art before Remy? I thought he did something prior to that.
I believe so. I believe he studied judo. I'll look up the article in Fighting Stars because I know it mentions it in the article with him wearing that wild cowboy hat with the rainbow across it and working double sticks. And he was just doing a class out of his backyard because he wanted. Remy was like, "Look, I want you to teach," and Gene was like, here's a guy who was a big Disney child star, and then this movie came up with Pacific Connection. And if you haven't seen the film, ladies and gentlemen, you should check it out. I mean, it's got everybody from Guy Madison to Dean Stockwell to Alejandro Rey from The Flying Nun, and of course Roland Dante is the star. Nancy Kwan has got a role in the film. It's a very interesting film, and it's got some pretty wild scenes with Alejandro Rey, and boy, it was a wild movie for its time. So here, Dean Stockwell, he's learning European fencing, he's learning Japanese kenjutsu, swordsmanship, and then he's watching the stuff Remy's doing. He goes, "I want to do this stuff. That's cool. Can I do that too?" So he's taking every chance he can get to work with Remy and get the material down. So by the time the film wrapped, Dean was a certified instructor. People didn't realize that. Remy had certified him at that point because he just didn't like it. He loved it. And he took it to heart. And when he got back to California, he started a group out of his backyard and started teaching, got in touch with his actor friends and said, "Hey, you got to try this out. This is a lot of fun." And then, Fighting Stars was basically a magazine that dealt with people who were in the Hollywood media who were martial artists. So that's why Dean's in one of the first issues.
Yeah, and I never knew that. I mean, I knew the name Fighting Stars, but I didn't know it was for actors. So that's pretty cool.
So he was the first. So Dean Stockwell was the first person to ever demonstrate and make the cover of a major martial arts magazine in America depicting Modern Arnis.
Nice.
And I'm sure you can find the cover online if you look for it. It's got to be out there. Matter of fact, I think Black Belt Magazine might actually have the entire issue with the article in it available through their site. You can try to find it.
Not sure with them because they Century bought them out.
Yeah, Century now owns them, right?
So who knows? I'm not sure where they are at the moment.
Sure. But, I mean, so I'm sitting with Professor, and because we know each other, and I've trained with him for a few years, for several years at that point, because that was 2 weeks before Germany when he was diagnosed. So that was like the last video interview ever done. So, and I sat on it for a while. I mean, I aired a portion of it on my TV show, a half hour, but I didn't air the whole episode. So, I was looking at AOL and the martial arts message boards. And so I was like, you know what? Let me offer this. There you go. Yep.
Yeah. I actually have a bunch of these.
Nice.
It's hard to find.
There you go. There's available. Yeah.
Yeah. There's oh, look at it. Here we go.
And there's a review of Pacific Connection in there as well.
There's a demo.
I mean, it's a great issue. Yep.
That's off of Jackie's blog.
The Stick Chick.
Yeah, and then that's him doing Redunda with
I remember those videos.
Yeah.
There you go.
That was pre-Century uniform. That was when they're all wearing those little bed shirts.
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. I found an old red Century top that I wanted to sell. I was going to show it here on the show. I think it's a size 3. So anybody who's a size 3 and you want an old memory, I've got one.
There we go.
Wow, look at that. Awesome.
There we go. Cool. What do we got
so
here?
Anyway, can I talk?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, I decided to offer it on FMA and put it out there. And wouldn't you know, suspect before prospect. First guy, Dieter, how dare you offer this? And how dare you, you're trying to make this available and run on the memory of Remy Priestess and blah. And I don't know Dieter from a hole in the wall. And I'm like, what in the blue hell? I mean, I know who he is as far as that goes, but it's like, have a nice tall glass of shut up. It's not your property. You don't own it. I just wanted to do something nice. I'm figuring maybe I'll offer 10 and be done with it. And so I'm like, okay. And, you need to get in touch with the Priestess family and you need to get there okay and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm going, no member of the Priestess family ever contacted me. Oh, you got to get in touch with their lawyer. Okay, I'll do the right thing. Not a problem. Well, guess who their lawyer was? Dave Hoffman.
Right.
So Dave had just come back to the United States from Great Britain. So he contacts me and he's going off on legalese. And I'm going, Dave, it's Joe Rebelo. Joe Rebelo from New Bedford. Remember back in 85, I used to come all the time. Oh, my God, Joe, it's you? Yeah. Oh, well, and now now it's the Emily Latella moment where it's, that's different. So I said, look, Dave, I'll tell you what. Come down to New Bedford. We'll have some nice Portuguese food. We'll go down to my cable TV studio. I'll burn you a master copy of it. Bring it to the Priestess family. Make 9,043 copies of it. Make some money for the family. I don't care. But for some reason, he just never showed up. And I would have loved to see him and help out the family and do all this stuff. And he just never showed up. So I'm like, okay, not like I didn't offer. So I made some select ones. But then all the first generation guys are private messaging me. So Dane Anderson and Kelly Warden and all these guys are going, hey, so, tell me about this video, like Kelly Warden. Well, I got the longest running video. I went longest interview with Remy and I go, video? Wait. It's video? Yeah. Well, how long is it? 10, 15 minutes? It's an hour. You got an hour with Remy? Yeah. And we got a demo with Larry Rocher at the end of it. You got a demo on top of it? I want one. Okay. Same thing, Dan Anderson. How long is this? This is an hour. So they get this stuff, and they're all contacting me. This is great, man. You ask questions. You got stuff I didn't even know about Remy, and I dealt with him for years. This is great stuff, Joe. So they're happy. So then Dan contacts me and says, hey, can I put this in one of my books? I was like, sure. Of course, he spells my name wrong when he put it in there, but that's okay. No, it's not. I'm very anal about my name. But anyway, but he corrected it in the recent book, which I really appreciated. And I'll tell you, I mean, I'm sorry about the whole thing with Dan, but that new book is rocking. That new book is awesome. There is stuff about Remy and his history I never knew about, and really very well done. I really enjoyed the book, and I'm just saying that straight out. If you don't have the book, get it. I'm very glad I got mentioned on it. And I'm thinking, okay, he put me in the acknowledgments. I'm okay. But like in the first page about the whole thing, he mentions me again that it's used a lot from my interview. And I'm like, wow, I'm so happy because, if I can help more people find out about Remy and his accomplishments and accolades and his history, I'm a happy camper. I was so blessed, so fortunate, so grateful for him taking the time to work with me and teach my students. And, and like I said, I mean, I mentioned about Tim Gillette. He was grooming Tim. He wanted Tim to be one of his guys, like one of his guys that was going to teach his art throughout the country. You could see it. And, and certain other individuals in the modern Arnis political society were kind of like, he'd show up and they'd oh yeah, just sit down in the corner. And Remy would show up and go, Tim, what are you doing sitting down? You need to get up and teach. What are you doing there? No, get up and teach. I am teaching you. I want you to share the art. And to watch Tim move, you can see it. I'll say up front, no problem. But yeah, I mean, I'm really glad. I'm glad the stuff's out there. I mean, regardless of source, if you got something out of it, and like my students, if they get something out of the Filipino martial arts, I have a young man right now. He's training. He's an advanced brown belt with me. Been training with me for years, and every class, bip, bip, bip. How do you know it's Remy? Because Remy's doing it. I'm showing you Remy doing it. Right. So there's no doubt in your mind as to whether or not the material comes from Professor Priestess. Why? It's right there on color and vivid Technicolor from 1985 or the 7 and 8 ones or the later black belt videos so they can see. And if I do that, then I did my job.
Okay, so we got a couple of people chimed in. So Chris Davison made a comment that Kenpo Joe equals living martial arts Wikipedia.
There you go.
Coined by Alan Goldberg from Action Martial Arts.
And we have a Priestess family member watching from Negros Occidental. So as usual, how would you pronounce that, Ty?
I think Plaridel. I'm not sure.
Plaridel. Hopefully we're not massacring your name.
That's right. If
he chimed in last week and gave us a lot of support for the or the other week when we were talking about how the Priestess brothers, the evolution of the art and such. So definitely get a chance to watch some of our other episodes. So we've been doing this for about an hour and a half. Go figure. Okay. So my question is, what do you got for us? Do you want me to share that, by the way?
Sure, he asked. Well, while you're framing your mind, if you want.
Okay, I'm going to share this real quick. Let me.
And maybe Eric's still watching, and then we'll convince him to come on.
Yeah, Eric, we want you on because you need to talk about how Modernies, your interaction with Modernies in Connecticut, and then how you help getting things going. So, Eric is the gentleman here on the left with the glasses. And then that's Montoya. That's Ty with hair.
Sort of.
There's Remy.
Yeah, okay. I remember Eric. Yeah.
Remy wearing the shirt that I designed.
Cool.
That was in Texas. Mid-90s, something like that. Early 90s.
Yeehaw, Texas.
Gosh, you don't put any pictures of me with Remy. Gee, thanks. Ugh.
I don't have them.
Well, you asked to see pictures, and now we know you remember him. So there you go.
Yeah, no, definitely. Does he remember me?
I think so. Yeah.
I think everyone remembers you. You're not forgettable.
That's right.
Well, when I used to, people ask me, "Oh, well, how do I remember you?" I said I used to look like Avery Shriver. You know, why I thought pubic hair on top of my head was a fashion statement, I'll never know. But
okay,
that's what I had.
I'm Pracis Senior, guys. Okay,
that's awesome.
That is really cool. I don't even know what time it is.
Great.
Middle of the morning or something.
So, yeah. So, let's wrap it up. Let's. We have a tendency of going a little crazy. Our and Jesse Dwyer.
Nice.
Everyone remembers Jesse Dwyer. There. How you doing, brother?
That's right.
So, what would you like to say in closing?
Yeah, this is your show for now.
God bless Remy Precis. Thank you for every time you took the time to teach me. Thank you for every time you took the time to talk to me. Thank you for giving me the golden opportunity to interview you and talk to you. Thank you to every single modern Arnis practitioner that is studying our mighty art. Absolutely. Just grateful and blessed. And I remember when I found out Professor died online on AOL, and I've only wept like a child only on a very few number of occasions. Of course, when Ed Parker died, and I remember I had classes that day, and I found out, and I literally had to run into the bathroom, lock the door, and just weep, and just completely, utterly, totally lose my mind, and just kept crying and crying, and people are knocking on. Are you okay? No, I'm not. And I got out the door, and tears streaming down my face. I'm going, Remy Precis died. And I remember that pain, and I remember that distinct loss. And I wasn't the big name. I wasn't God's gift to modern Arnis. I was just some guy who loved what he did. Mm-hmm. I wasn't caught up in the ranks. I just wanted to learn the material, and I just wanted to pass it along. And I'm just glad I was able to do that. And I hope in some small way, by being here with all of you, that I shared a little bit of my experiences with him. Absolutely. And he was a great man, and I was blessed to know him, and I miss him every day. That's about it.
As we all do. So, Joe, I'm gonna sign out here. Let me you stay online. We're gonna do our sign out, and then we'll talk for a moment or two, and I'll give you some information on what we were talking about earlier. All right, hold on. Okay, so there is another episode of FMA Talk. Don't really have. Okay, what's going on here? FMA Talk's more fun than a barrel of stick-wielding Wasanikins. Okay, I'm glad you like that. So late to this. That's okay. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it, the rebroadcast, anytime you want there, Jesse. So I think that was good. I liked them on. I would love to get more people from Massachusetts. I'd love to get Richard Roy on the show. And please, everyone, if you know somebody that you think would be good for the show, by all means, give them a shout out. Let them know what we're doing. This is for everybody. This is not, it's not us. It's all of us. And, the big thing here is always good time and great show, gentlemen. Once again, I don't know who he's talking about, but, once again, if you need to check things out, Datu Hartman on a whole bunch of platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram is Ties SF or Ties SKF, Thai SKF, Ties Kung Fu, basically. No apostrophe. What do you got coming up? Anything huge? You're going to be up this way next weekend, right?
I'm going to be up. Yeah, I'm going to be crashing the Bikini Tusha camp that Jack Latour and Coach Danny are running with PG Chad.
Actually, you're training in there. I'm probably crashing it.
There you go.
There you go. Chad wanted me to bring a staff to him and a belt, and Brockport's not far away, so I'll probably stop up. I'm doing my Pontoon seminar next week, so I'll probably just pop on that afterwards, or the Saturday. I
really liked having another person on today. I think it was a pleasure, and plus, I can't really top what Joe had to say at the end there.
Okay, you all talk so highly of Remy. I wish I had this interest sooner to meet him and learn more. Thanks for sharing. And once again, I'm trying to read this, and my camera's right in front of the screen. Listen, everybody, once again, we offer information. We offer our opinion on things. People may or may not agree with what we say, and that's fine. Everyone has to do their own work. You need to listen to stuff and then check the sources and then decide what you want to believe at the end of the day. We don't have a topic for next week. Did you have anything you wanted to go over next week specifically?
No, I hadn't thought that far ahead.
Okay, but I do have a topic in 2 weeks. I didn't get to do the graphics; it's been crazy.
Yes.
But here we go. I'm going to just pull up my calendar real quick while I have this in front of me. On the 16th, the FMAT show will be Modern Arnis and Balintawak Correlation, and we will have Master Rich Parsons of Flint, Michigan, to be part of this. So, longtime student of Modern Arnis as well as Balintawak, and was a senior student of the late Grandmaster Ted Buat, which was also my instructor. The person, when I have a question on Balintawak, he's the guy I reach out to when it comes to our lineage of the Bakan Buat lineage. So,
that'll be good. That'll be good.
What do you got for us?
Oh, that's it. I think let's end on that. And I don't see any other Chads hanging, so that's good.
Okay. As always, everybody, please stay safe and stay sane. We will see you soon. And once again, just reach out if you got any suggestions. All right.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.